now I have 24, 25 people that
Mhm.
I have to trust. I have to take my hands off the wheel
Mhm.
and let them do and get out of the way. That is terrifying. It's a
Yes.
terrifying
Yes.
moment because you can't be everywhere. But in order
Mhm.
to grow, you must let go. You must let go in order to grow.
I'm Julie B, and they don't teach this in business school. Hey there, I'm Julie B, and you're listening to They Don't Teach This in Business School, a podcast where we discuss business ownership lessons that are learned through experience, not in a classroom. Today, I'm really excited to interview Kathleen Quinn Votaw, the owner and CEO of Talent Trust. And I'm so looking forward to this conversation because I know we are going to learn some very valuable business ownership lessons today. Kathleen, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited about this discussion today and looking forward to talking to you.
Great. So, Kathleen, just give us a brief overview of Talent Trust and what you all do for your clients.
Well, Talent Trust is a recruiting firm. I founded it about 20 years ago. We have about 23 people on the team. We work all over the United States helping people in construction, engineering, manufacturing, healthcare find the people they need to grow. So we are a recruiting company at our core. We also look, Julie, at the talent acquisition process and do some talent acquisition audits for our clients
Hmm.
and some employee experience survey work so they can create the community that will attract the people they need to grow.
So, you take a real holistic look at the entire process, not just focused on that one moment where you need to hire somebody. It's the whole, you can look at the whole process for your clients.
Yeah, at our core is we want companies to get better
Hmm.
at retaining and recruiting people. So in order to have a good recruiting outreach plan, you've got to be able to retain the people you have today.
Hmm.
So if they're not having a good experience while they're working for you, likely that people won't join you. So
Hmm.
we do take a holistic approach. We make sure we kind of look under the rug a little bit, like
Yeah.
we want to make sure there's nothing that the candidates who we bring to our clients might not enjoy while they're there on their journey.
Hmm. That makes sense. Kathleen, what is your favorite part about being a business owner?
Well, when I started, Julie, I wanted to be free. It's like freedom, William Wallace, freedom. When Mel Gibson is laying and getting murdered, he's screaming freedom. So that's one, not to be overly dramatic, but
No.
not, I didn't fit. I didn't realize I didn't fit corporate America until I was in my early 30s.
Hmm.
And I probably didn't fit from the beginning, but I had some really good mentors and managers who just would leave me to my own devices.
Hmm. Hmm.
But then, I love the freedom to work with whom I'd like to,
Hmm.
when I like to, where I'd like to, how I'd like to.
Yeah.
And I get joy from working with clients who are just really interesting and they truly want to build a better organization and they truly want to create an environment where their people will grow and thrive.
Hmm.
Now, there's a lot of recruiting companies out there that provide butts and seats.
Hmm.
We're not that firm. Like if you want butts and seats, there's so many other firms you can go to. But
Hmm.
if you want to fix the overall issue, we're probably the better choice.
Mm, yeah, and there's so many businesses that need that at all levels. There's you said looking under the rug a little bit, and I'm curious, how do you when you're doing that type of work for a client, there has to be a part where before you even get to that, you're going through a client selection process to make sure that the
Mhm.
client is going to one let you do that, and two,
Yeah.
um respond in a way, take action on your advice within, within reason in terms of their own budget and stuff that they have to work with. So how do you make sure that you are getting the right clients that will do those things with you?
Yeah, we go through discovery with our clients, kind of
Hmm.
simple conversation, just like we're
Hmm.
having, Julie.
Hmm.
what do you think you need?
Yeah.
What brought you to the conversation in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
What do you perceive as broken?
Mm-hmm.
Um, because usually we come in through a CEO or a key leader who's heard me speak or read my book or heard from somebody else, and something's not quite right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really is a process of let me listen to what you're struggling with. And if we're a good fit, then we can certainly help you. But if we're not a good fit, we can refer you to the right firm that could help you. Because, I mean, client
Mm-hmm.
engagement, just like employee engagement, customer selection is as important as an employee selection. You don't want to get it wrong. So
Yeah.
our phases are initial discovery, conversation, listening to the needs, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we're not going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
Also, if they, as I said before, if they don't want to fix the community that they're
Mm-hmm.
building and why people might be, if there's a high attrition, for example, and they don't care about it, they're probably not a good fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and there's natural attrition. So I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying, you know, all attrition is not bad, but if you
Mm-hmm.
don't give a shit about attrition, we're
Yeah.
probably not going to be a good fit.
Definitely not. I can't imagine you working with with a CEO or founder or company, a leader who just doesn't care if people are coming and going, because that's a really, I mean, one, that's very expensive, and two, what are they even, they shouldn't even be in that role if they don't
It's
care.
true.
Yeah.
We worked with a restoration
Mm-hmm.
company that will go nameless,
Mm-hmm.
and we had brought in about 50 people to the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And we were noticing after about 6 months attrition of the people we had brought in. So, we polish up ourselves, we go into a meeting and we presenting this data that we were concerned that the people we were bringing into the organization weren't staying,
Mm-hmm.
and that was only like 6 to 8 months into our engagement.
Mm.
And so, we have no control over the environment we went to.
Mm-hmm.
So the owner really didn't care, and
Mm.
so we had to fire the client because it was the client was focused on, well, you're not sending us the right candidates. I'm like, but you made a hiring decision to hire them,
Yeah.
and then they're telling us you stink when they actually get there. So so you can, it was transference of
Yeah.
accountability. It's
Yeah.
really easy, and I'm sure anybody in recruiting listening to this, it is so easy to blame the recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the recruiter sent me a shitty person. No,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you selected someone who didn't fit your organization. You made the hiring decision. You did not look at your environment that you put them into. You didn't have the right onboarding. There's so many pieces to the pie. So
Yeah.
as entitled your podcast, they didn't teach you that in business
Mm-hmm.
school. No,
No.
there's so many facets to bringing someone into the company that people miss.
Yeah. So Kathleen, switching gears here a little bit, you've been in business for just a little while, and one thing that I would really be interested in knowing is what, looking back, what do you think has been your biggest win as a business owner?
Mm. Well, that I actually could be. I mean, so in 2003, I was fired from my position. I had just gotten through treatment on thyroid cancer. I was a new mom.
Hmm.
Um, it was a really difficult time. And then I was unceremoniously asked to exit stage right because
Mm-hmm.
they thought I was out too much with the cancer treatment and the new baby.
Yeah.
And so, which, was probably, accurate, but not very empathetic at all. And, the first year, Julie was all about, can I take care of my family?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you boil it down to the basic need, we all work to take care of our families,
Mm-hmm.
whatever your definition of family is.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what your definition, it is to provide for the people we love. And that's why I started my business. I wanted to provide for the people I love. So first lesson was I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest win the first year when we were profitable our very first year and had real green dollars that went into the bank.
Yeah.
And we, I mean, it was remarkable.
Yeah.
And I wondered why I never did it before.
Yeah.
What did I wait for? I wish I did it, and I'm sure you hear this a lot. I wish I did it earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a common thread of just do it, progress over perfection. I think we all get stuck in there's so many things. There's imposter syndrome, there's analysis paralysis, there's just flat out fear. A lot of those are just
Mm-hmm,
around fear of failure.
mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I'm actually teaching a class to new business owners of all things. I guess it makes sense, but the very first lesson I wrote on the board, progress, not perfection. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, I keep like pounding that into their brains because I'm like, this is what actually matters, that you're doing the work, that you're taking steps. You
Mm-hmm,
will learn as you go in some ways, and other ways, there's times to seek professional help in terms of, lawyers and CPAs and all of that, of course. But right now, in this minute, what matters is that you take a step towards
mm-hmm,
actually launching your business. And I give them homework. I'm like, okay, go to a networking event. That's your homework. They have homework from the material, but I'm also like, go to one networking event and tell people what you do. That's it. Like, just
yeah.
start talking about what you do and go out there and be a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally
So
agree.
yeah.
Step number one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Step number
Mm-hmm.
one. Have you ever seen that movie, Finding Nemo?
Yes.
Dory, and all she does is say, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
could be, you could bring on a little Dory
Yeah. I
and
feel like,
just keep swimming. You have to forward motion constantly. And
mm-hmm,
there's so many things that can derail you, including yourself. So I love
mm-hmm.
that progress over perfection. I'm going to steal it from you because it's a more mature way to say, just keep swimming.
Yeah, it depending on the audience, sometimes I think the just keep swimming work would work better. But yeah, it's just and I mean, I have to remind myself of that. One of the things as you were talking about your biggest success, I feel like every year you make it through as a business owner, or you even if it's, I mean, some years it is survival and you hope for more years of thriving than surviving, but there are seasons where you are just surviving. And I feel like every year is everything's a win when you're doing that. Every year you make it as a business owner, I feel like on some levels is a win. And when
Mhm.
you've been doing it for 20 years, I can't even imagine how many other wins you've had, but I get that completely.
Thank you.
Hey, this is Julie V, and you're listening to They Don't Teach This in Business School. I'm here with Kathleen Quinn Votaw, and we're talking about all things business and about things she's learned on her journey over the past 20 years. So, Kathleen, one thing I wanted to ask you about, though, is burnout. And have you ever experienced it as a business owner? And if you're open to sharing that story, I'd love to hear it.
Yes, regularly and often is the short answer.
Yeah.
It's exhausting to, this courage. I mean, your progress over perfection and my just keep
Mm-hmm.
swimming reference. It's the courage to keep moving forward. And sometimes you don't have the internal resources to do so.
Mm-hmm.
It is true when they say it's lonely at the top because the buck stops with you. There were times I couldn't tell people how scared I was,
Yeah.
how frightened I was about taking a loan, which was
Mm-hmm.
made a lot of the difference in growing the company. How
Mm-hmm.
scared I was about being able to provide for my customers when I finally started to succeed through other people. Because when you start out, it's your brand,
Mm-hmm.
you're selling, you're servicing, so
Mm-hmm.
you're in kind of, it's a contained situation. But then
Mm-hmm.
you start inviting, now I have 24, 25 people that
Mm-hmm.
I have to trust. I have to take my hands off the wheel
Mm-hmm.
and let them do and get out of the way. That is terrifying. It's a
Yes.
terrifying
Yes.
moment. because you can't be everywhere. But in order
Mm-hmm.
to grow, you must let go. You must let go in order to grow. And I remember one time we were serving a client and something went wrong. The client called me to complain about somebody who worked with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I called my sister Eileen, and I was sitting on one side of my bed with a bottle of wine, crying my heart out, saying, I'm working so hard and me, 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 me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really didn't think I had the internal fortitude to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And she said, you have about 24 hours for your little pity party and then move on. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay. So we
Yeah.
need people in our life who will let us cry, let us
Mm-hmm.
be mad, sad, have my husband calls it a hot cry. If you have a hot cry, like you know, ugly cry, like really
Anybody
pissed
who's done
off.
that knows exactly what that is. Yes.
Yeah, like an awful cry.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
then you just, you gotta, you don't have the promise of tomorrow. Nobody does. And I've
Mm-hmm.
learned that because I'm a cancer survivor. Many people don't have that gift that I was given through that. And
Mm-hmm.
so, so yes, I have down days. Yes, I'm disappointed, but the the joy of getting up and moving forward, and the gift of today, I can overcome anything with all the friends I've met along the way, all the
Mm-hmm.
mentors, all the, you know, it's gonna be better. The sun will come out tomorrow. I think
Yeah.
in lyrics, Julie, just so I'm
Yeah.
a weirdo. I think in lyrics, but it will come out and you'll be okay.
Yeah. One thing I have learned in business is everything is a little bit brighter the next morning. I think that that's kind of what you're saying. I mean, I have been through some really, we all have. I mean, we have those hard days, and yes, we do have those. My partner, and she's my therapist. Um, Thankfully, they also kick me in the butt, but they give me the space to just have my
Right.
moment, and then remind me that, yeah, okay, you can do this too. You've done so many other things. You're going to be okay here. But I mean, I literally, when you were saying that, I was thinking about those hard days and the nights when I would fall to sleep, and then in the morning, it always feels a little bit better the next day. Even
Mhm.
if the problem isn't fixed, it's like you have this new perspective, and you're like, I'm still getting up and getting to do what I
Mhm.
want to do. I have that freedom every morning to go and work. And yes, I have to, oh gosh, I have to have that hard meeting with that person today, but I'm also going to get to do all of these amazing things that I love to do. Like, how great is that? So that
Exactly.
perspective, like giving yourself that beat, that moment of have the hot cry, feel a little bit sorry for yourself for a minute, but know that it's going to be better. If
Mhm.
it's not the next day it will be better. I really believe that business owners need to hear that more, because it's very hard sometimes.
There's a little book by Charles Fred called The 24-Hour Rule. And I think, what you're talking about, Julie, and what I referenced, it's give yourself some space to
Mm-hmm.
grieve for whatever it was, and then keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's really what you got to do. I love that book. I learned it as a hockey mom too. You
Yeah.
weren't allowed to yell at the referees or the coaches for 24 hours. To any hockey coach out there who met me as a hockey mom, I wanted to yell at you, but I kept walking.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up, because I was just thinking about how in that position you feel like there's somebody who's treating your child incorrectly, poorly, whatever, or not fairly, whatever the case may be. My parents had to do the same thing with me with basketball, so like I've heard stories as I've gotten older. But in some ways you also have to have that. I feel like you sometimes have to have that boundary with your team as well. So you may
Oh
want
yeah.
to go, so a client may mistreat somebody on your team, and I mean there's obviously varying levels to this and professionalism and all of that, but it may be something that you need to take 24 hours and let your employee actually handle the situation,
Mhm.
and support them in handling it, because that's how they grow, that's how you grow, instead of you jumping in being the hockey mom and
Yeah.
yelling at the client who said something that was not very nice, or
Mhm.
something that you felt was unwarranted in that moment. Giving yourself 24 hours take a break from that too, I think is probably good advice.
It's really it's been very powerful in my life and in my business, my personal life and business life.
Hey, you're listening to They Don't Teach This in Business School. I'm Julie B, and I'm here with Kathleen Quinn Votaw of Talent Trust, and we are just talking about all of the things, all of the lessons in business ownership. Kathleen, one thing I love to ask business owners is, how do you define success?
Oh, well, that, you know, for me, it's making sure I can provide for my family. That's
Mm-hmm,
number one. And it's the relationships that I have. So it's not the money in the bank.
mm-hmm,
Um, it's when I see the joy other people have when I do something or succeed at something. There's so many people that have contributed to where I am today.
mm-hmm,
It's almost like they're on the journey with me every single moment. And they're more excited than maybe even I am about certain things. And there's kind of this mutual joy when good things happen.
mm-hmm,
Really good story about that is one of my very first bosses ever, Ronnie Mostyn at Daniel Robertson Employment. She is still a friend of mine. She's been a very informative leader, very successful woman in her own right. And she'll see things out there posted in, digital marketing land. And
mm-hmm,
she'll say, I knew you were going to do something big. I knew you were going to do something meaningful. And that brings me great joy. And
mm-hmm,
my my father had a phrase, shoot for the moon. If you get halfway there, I'll be proud of you.
mm,
And so the definition of success for me is through his lens, because I'm still shooting for the moon. And it just, it's never over. I don't feel like I'm a success. I feel like I work really hard and I get great joy from the recognition I get.
mm-hmm,
But I learned a ton from my mother and father that, success, fame is very fleeting.
mm-hmm,
You know, I get joy from each day and the work I do. Like I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina today, and I had such a remarkable morning speaking to these business owners and leaders. And they started with this emotional, significant event. And I was almost devastated after the first 45 minutes because they were just,
yeah,
they work to have a great life and they shared
mm-hmm,
so much. So it was the honor of being in that room. I guess the gist of my long-winded answer, Julie, is it's not any one thing. And I don't
mm-hmm,
think my success is being with other people and sharing joy in what we're
mm-hmm,
doing together and doing good work together. That's when I feel the most successful.
yeah.
Is that
And
helpful?
yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, there's relationships and the joy that comes along with sharing, the wins, all of the things you just said are so, yeah, I mean, the one thing that there's an exercise that people tell you to do to, um, basically, what would you want? Basically, write your eulogy, right? What would you want people to say
Mhm.
about you at your funeral? And the one thing that I always think about is like that in some way, um, left a positive impact or
Mhm.
had made a positive impact on the people who interacted with me, whether it was one time or 100 times. Like that I had what and positive impact can be defined in a lot of different ways. It's not just business. Sometimes I mean, I had a conversation with somebody a few weeks ago who wanted to start a business, but is going through some really hard life stuff. And I said, listen, life happens, and you have to be in the right headspace to start a business. So while I'm all about progress over perfection, right now the progress is one day at a time in your life, because what's going on in her life is will change her life for the rest of her life. So
Mhm.
um and she contacted me and said that that was so impactful. And she's, while she's going through what she's going through, she's like, I can't stop thinking about my business. And I know I'm going to, when I come out of this, I'm going to be even better and be even more prepared to go. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just those relationships are so crucial. And it's those are the relationships that, you mentioned being lonely at the top and how that's a real thing. Those,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be vulnerable to get what you when you need, when you're in that lonely space. You have to be willing to be vulnerable. But what I've found is when you open up to like your really trusted people in those groups, um they will lift you up and help and
Mm-hmm.
encourage you and make whatever challenging thing you're going through a little bit easier. And yeah, that's just fantastic. Do you have is that one of the ways you deal with the loneliness at the top, just having that support group?
Totally. I
Yeah.
think I told you, Julie, I'm a member of great organization called Vistage Worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been a member for 15 years, and it has made all the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And having not being the only, once a month I go and I get to talk
Mm-hmm.
about what's important to me as the leader. We're all so busy leading,
Mm-hmm.
we forget to stop and think about what we need as leaders. So it gives me a pause,
Mm-hmm.
and I can look, work on the business versus in the business one time a month. It's really a gift. Wonderful to do.
And it is, and if you don't schedule that, working on the business instead of in it, I find that you just don't get to it. So having that accountability and that schedule helps a lot. That's one thing I also tell business owners to do, like make sure you're doing that and have
Mm-hmm.
some way to have accountability around it, whether it's you're paying for it, so you better show up, or
Mm-hmm.
you have, a business partner who helps hold you accountable for sure. Um, so Kathleen, one thing you've talked a lot about is the team. Talk about a little bit about what you are proudest of your team for, maybe in the past year. Is there anything that stands out in terms of what your team has accomplished over the past year that you're really proud of?
Oh, they're constantly improving the organization. So one of our core values is to be very curious and challenge the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very curious and they're challenging the status quo. One of my team members built a new training program. We brought in a new revenue officer to our organization, and
Mm-hmm.
boy, Roger is challenging everybody about how they think about marketing and
Mm-hmm.
sales.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really proud of their willingness to grow and reach.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite things they ever did for me is they wrote me a love letter once. It was right after the pandemic, and we kept the band together. We kept everybody
Yeah.
together, everybody employed, and that was the greatest gift for me, that they saw how, our company is a great little company, and we stand by our values. We do the
Mm-hmm.
right thing even when it's hard. We're challenge each other. We speak the truth. We do the truth. We challenge each other. They're just amazing human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so honored they choose me. I just got a note yesterday from John Logal on my team, and
Mm-hmm.
it was his little baby girl, who's adorable, by the way. And she's holding up like a Talent Trust KQB Speaks coaster and the pen. And she was going to work with daddy. And so he
Mm-hmm.
took a picture and said, I thought you might like this. I thought you might enjoy this. And then I got another note from Jennifer Turner on my team. And she said, I just want to thank you because I know you have to leave your house every other week to go build our company. And I wanted to thank you for all the work you're doing on our behalves.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they get that we're working for each other's families. We're
Yeah.
working our all the work we put in isn't for my pocketbook.
Mm-hmm.
It's for their pocketbook. It's
Mm-hmm.
for to have a company where you can work remotely and virtually, be a full human being. You can go
Mm-hmm.
exercise, you can go for the run, you can go ride the bike, you can go be a mom, you can make the pot roast, go paint a picture. I don't care, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But you can also be intellectually curious and grow with your career. And I'm working for them, they're working for me. We're working as a team to move our lives forward. And I think
Mm.
that's where the magic happens.
That is great. Working as a team to move all of your lives forward. That's really special, man. I'm taking a note of that right now, actually, as we're sitting here.
Well, I learned it from them, Julie. I mean,
Yeah.
anybody listening to this who might have worked for me when I was in my 30s and 40s, I apologize. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I know I was a turd. I didn't always know. But I mean, here's the thing, we're all a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person is learning every day if you're open
Yeah.
to learn. And I was not the best version of myself a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm a better version of myself now, but I got more work to do, Julie. I'm there's there What did you say? Progress over perfection,
Yeah.
honey.
Yeah.
I'm just there's no perfection here for
Yeah.
sure. But if, I'm better than I was,
Mm-hmm.
and I can admit that, and I can say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If I was a turd or a jerk, I'm sorry. I still love
Yeah.
you. Sorry. Because, we don't always get it right. I think
No.
the thing they never teach you in, business school is the leadership that you work with and for
Mm-hmm.
don't always know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Yeah.
just human beings, and sometimes we don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
we're stuck at saying we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes to that point, your team doesn't like really needs to hear something other than I don't know. And there's a balance. I'm learning that in some ways right now that there's a balance to you have to be able to say that though sometimes because you've got to say that versus the what's the option, either not saying anything or just straight up not saying the truth, which those neither of those are options. So sometimes you do have to say I don't know, and the team has to believe in you enough to bet on you and trust you, and yeah, I think that's something that's constantly being good enough for that. I think
Mhm,
being that type of leader, that work never stops and you're always improving. The boss that I
mhm,
was 5 years ago, I should apologize to the people who worked for me
mhm.
5 years ago because but I'm a lot better now than I was, and 5 years from now I know I'll be a lot better than I am today. So I think if you know that you're on the at least the right path as a leader for sure,
Mhm.
because that's just that self-reflection piece. Oh man.
Totally agree.
So good. Well, Kathleen, listen, as we're coming to the end of this conversation, I ask this question to all the people I interview on here. If you were going to teach a course in if you were going to teach a course to potential business owners, people who were thinking about starting a business but weren't quite sure about it, what's the one main thing you would want them to learn from you?
Just go for it. Just go for it. You're going to fail.
Yeah.
You're just going to fail at some point. You're going to make a mistake. Just go for it.
Yeah.
What are you waiting for?
Yeah.
What are you waiting for? I mean, if you have a dream, it's kind of your job to go get it. Nobody's going to give it to you. I don't care who you are, where you're from. Nobody's giving you a free ride.
Mhm.
You have to go grab it,
Yeah.
hang on, and fight for it.
I'm taking a deep breath because I feel like all right, I'm inspired. I'm going to go do it. You're speaking to me about certain things that I'm not going to talk about on here, but there are some things going on in my life like I'm going for it. So, Kathleen, oh my gosh, this has been just a joy of a conversation. I am so grateful for your time on here, and I know the business owners who are listening are going to just get so much from this interview. I want to thank you again for being here today.
My pleasure, Julie, and best to you and all your listeners for now and always.
And that's it for this episode, but stay tuned because I'll be back with more lessons learned on the business owner's journey. I'm Julie B, and they don't teach this in business school.